Can you look at the people in your life and say, follow me? Chase after Jesus the way you see me chasing after Jesus.
There's a lie that permeates the Christian church, which is that we cannot live like Christ lived. There's no way that I could love like Jesus loved. Says who?
The first reason why people are not stepping out is shame.
Christians are broken because you're a sinner. There is something wrong with you. Scripture says you are a saint.
But our pastors, if they show up vulnerable, they're out. You can't do discipleship one time a year, a men's retreat. The man with nothing to hide is the most powerful man in the room.
I'm broken, I'm a sinner, I'll always be a sinner. But no, you are redeemed. What does it mean to live out your testimony?
What does it mean to live out your testimony? Not just to speak it out, but to live it out. My mind always goes back to my time in the Army, to be honest. It's one thing, you can tell people who you are. It speaks more loudly when you show them who you are. And so I had a guy once when I showed up to a new team. I'm a new guy on the team, and he offers me a beer, and I decline it. And he says to me, I don't trust anyone who doesn't drink with me. And I was like, okay. And I'm still not going to have a beer right now. Like, no, not that I disagree with having a beer. I have made the decision when I was there, I will not cuss and I will not drink. Like I'm going to raise a standard for myself, even though I don't necessarily think that drinking is wrong, in moderation, but I'm not going to drink while I'm here. And I just decided to hold this standard. But then,
so you didn't drink at all during the?
When I was in the Army, no.
Wow.
No.
That's next level.
And so then, right now I have like 3 beers in a calendar year. So it's not like I don't really drink a lot anyways. Yeah. The point is just that like this guy decided that he can't trust anyone that doesn't drink with him. And so then I just began to live my life. And when people asked me questions, I would answer those questions, but I wasn't necessarily like proselytizing. I was just living my life according to how I decided to live my life. And then one of the things that happened from that is that individual also happened to be the individual that at one point went and like dragged me out of this compound when I was injured. He came out to get me. And so then a series of events, years later, a new batch of guys show up in the team room, and I hear him saying something similar to some of these new guys, offering them a beer when the beer light came on, and then saying, instead of his normal line of, I don't trust anybody who doesn't drink with me, he used a different line. And he told this guy, I've only ever trusted one man that won't drink with me. And I don't even know if he knew that I was in the room, because I was like in the backside of the team room still getting some work done. But I heard him say it. And it made me emotional, to be honest. We're like, yeah, man, I didn't, it wasn't my words that convinced him about who I was. It was him bearing witness to me through the struggles and the trials and all the times he got to bear witness to my life and saw that I am who I say I am. And so, for me, at least, that's the thing that comes to mind. Like I look at my own life and see where, no, man, it's me living out my own story. Like me living in alignment with who that doesn't mean perfect, because man, I wasn't. I put my foot in my mouth so many times, and I look back on it and I'm like embarrassed and have regret sometimes where I put my foot in my mouth or I didn't show up completely in alignment. But he got to see my life in a very intimate way for years on end. And the result of that was that like who I said I was and who I showed up as, according to his perspective, were by and large the same guy. And that spoke volumes to him. And so it's like this idea of a lighthouse, of being, just being. The lighthouse doesn't do anything. It just is. It doesn't go anywhere. It just exists there and serves as a point of reference for the ships coming in.
It's really powerful, Jeremy. So as you were speaking, one of the things that came to mind for me was thinking about a moment when I had an encounter with, a guy that I'm really, really close to. I made a statement to him. And it's been 14 years that I've honored that statement, and I'll unpack it in just a moment. But before I do, when I turned 30, between 30 and 31, I don't know the exact date, I learned that my blood pressure was just getting out of control. And I was starting to feel a little weird. I would get lightheaded, go down to tie my shoes. And when I would go to tie my shoes, I would feel like a head rush. And it was just really, really off. So every year I get my annual exam done. And when they did my blood pressure, I started noticing it was going up. And I'm like still working out from playing football. I'm still doing the things that I knew to do. And everything that the doctor told me to do, like no salt, all the stuff. And then for 3 years in a row, man, this thing just starts climbing. And I started digging and I started asking some questions in the family, like, hey, Mom, Dad, is there some things here that I'm up against that I'm not aware of? Like, are there some things that I'm wrestling against that I'm not, privy to? And then my mom gives me this backlog of all these cardiovascular issues that have showed up in my family, like lupus, heart disease. Like I literally lost every single one of my grandparents to some type of cardiovascular issue. And this opened my eyes, and this is where it comes into the conversation. Once I had that knowledge and I understood what I was up against, and my mom was like, yeah, I'm on blood pressure medication. Yeah, your grandfather died of this, your grandmother, cancer here. I realized that despite looking healthy on the outside, inside, I was dealing with some things that were genetic. So Revelation 12:11 says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And I believe living out our testimony, to your question, Skylar, it's about the way you live your life and not about what you say about your life. So I told my buddy, I was like, hey, man, I just got this report from the doctor. He says, hey, if you come back next year, we're putting you on meds. Like we got this whole protocol we're gonna put you on. I was like, oh man, I don't want that. So I told him, I was like, hey, I'm switching up my diet. Here's exactly what I'm gonna do when it comes to meat, dairy, like these things for me. I'm not saying these things are wrong, but for me personally, I love meat, right? Like I love ribs and steak, like all the stuff. And that was triggering my system based on the way my body's wired in a way where I just couldn't get over this hump. So it was recommended for me to go whole foods plant-based. I switched within 1 week. Everything shifted. All my numbers came down. And it's been 14 years since I've had a piece of meat. And people ask the question all the time, man, like, well, where do you get your protein? Things like that. It comes from the plants. And again, I play football, athlete, love meat. But for me, for whatever reason, my body just shifted and didn't agree with that. And it was causing some things to be out of whack for me. So it's been 14 years. And in regards to that testimony, my buddy looks at me, he's like, dude, I've never met a more disciplined man than you. And the way that you said, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. And dude, you've stuck by that for almost a decade and a half is amazing. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, it's not about discipline for me. There's areas where I have dropped the ball, where I have said, hey, I'm going to go do this thing and then get distracted. But I recognize the significance of this decision and how it can impact my life and me not being there for my wife, not being there for our living children. And I realized that the weightiness of this decision and living out that testimony of, hey, this is the direction I'm choosing to live in could be the difference between life and death. So I think living out the testimony is also a matter of understanding that it can impact others in the same way. And when we can live our word and not just speak our word, it makes all the difference.
I love that. So I have a lot to say on this. This hits me really, really in the heart. And I would say that our faith is similar to money in the sense that if your faith isn't in circulation, it doesn't have any real value. If you take your money and you hide it under a mattress, there's no value there. It's just paper in a mattress. And your faith is the same way. If you hold your faith inside of you, and you could be very knowledgeable on the Bible, you could have a great relationship with God, but if you're not expressing that out into the population, it doesn't have any value. It's just you, right? And once you're saved, once you're personally saved with God, that is done, right? He's paid the price. You're good there. Our next step is to share our faith with others and get that out in circulation, right? And let it flow through you. And in my experience with the church, the four corners of the local church, I think that's where a lot of churches really, really struggle, is in doing life together and expressing your faith through your actions. I was late to the game. Unfortunately, I was in the military, and you know how much alcohol did I drink? All of it. I drank all the alcohol.
Coach John drank my share.
Yeah, I drank his share of alcohol. Unfortunately, I'm not proud of that. And I used all the profanity. I used all the profanity, being in the military. So I was late to the game. So when I first got into my faith, it was very easy for me to show up to church or to a Bible study and put on a mask and pretend like my faith was solid, right? To put on my best face for the 3 hours I was at church on Sunday, to put on my best face during the Bible study. it wasn't until I really started getting into discipleship and living life with other Christians and showing my faith through my actions and seeing it through their actions and how they interacted in life, and like, how they treat a wait staff, how they tip wait staff. These are all discipleship movements. These are all expressions of your faith that we don't see when you're sitting in a pew at church.
That's so good, man. I say there are 5 gospels. I say there's 5. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and you. Like, you might be the only version of the gospel that, like, the people in your life who don't go to church, who don't have a relationship with God, they can still experience the gospel, but it will literally be through you. And so that maybe the only version of Jesus they hear about or see about, maybe the version of Jesus that they come to Jesus through the way in which we show up in their life, like literally being mistaken for Jesus. And so, how can you do that? Like, how can you stay celibate? How can you not drink? Or what are these things that go on in your life? Like, how can you, and then we have the opportunity, like, they get to ask questions about your life and about why you are making the decisions that you're making. And then there's your opportunity, like, just by the way in which we live our life.
And that's really what Rise Up Kings is all about. Matthew 5:14, you are a light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, right? So it's like we are called to be that light. And there's a lot of Christians that are not being that light. And no shame. It's just that was me. And so I grew up in that environment where my mom she would share her testimony, but she wouldn't live out her testimony, right? So I love her tremendously, biggest heart of a human being ever. Like literally, I share the struggles that she's had, but I don't always share the amazing parts. But she would be the person that would bring in the neighborhood kids to our house. She would bring in random strangers to our house. They would live with us. I mean, we always had new people at our house. So her heart was gigantic. And she struggled living in sin, right, and alcoholism while loving Jesus. And it caused a lot of confusion with me. And so as I lived out my walk in my faith, it was fun. It was funny. I was the kid carrying the Bible at school. So that was me. I would literally every day in high school, I would bring the Bible to school, and I was that kid. But then I was trying to get like girls to flash me in the hallway and like just living that life, like torn between both lives, right? The living in the flesh and then living in the spirit. And so I was not living out my testimony. And it wasn't until, so much spiritual formation happened inside me that I started to realize how much damage I was causing in other people by living a dual life, living in duality. That I started to completely shift and I made a commitment. I will no longer live a life where I will cause other people to stray from drugs, alcohol, sin, going to places I shouldn't. I decided there was a moment where I decided where I will live my life in a way that glorifies God. One of my mentors shared with me, he said, you're at a place now where you can actually say, follow me as I follow Christ, right? And that was my goal. I wanted to be in that place where I could actually tell somebody, hey, go follow me. Like my life is in a place where you follow me. Like I will follow me as I follow Christ. And it doesn't mean we have to have perfect lives, but it was like, that was my goal. I wanted to get to a place where I could say, follow me as I follow Christ. And so, have you guys shared the analogy of the breakdown of the tugboat and the lighthouse on the show before?
I don't think on the show.
Okay. No. So how some Christians do it is they operate as the tugboat. So the tugboat and the lighthouse. The lighthouse is it's out there, and it is a light that does not move. And the boats, when there's a boat that is lost and somebody's out at sea and it's completely lost, there's 2 different ways to get this boat back to shore. One is the tugboat, and one is the lighthouse. The tugboat pulls the boat, hooks up, yanks, and drags this boat back to shore. That's some Christians. They're using their word as their testimony, right? They share their testimony, but they're trying to just grab people and wrangle them in. I think there's some fathers that are that way. They just try to drag people to Christianity, drag people to the faith. And then there's the Lighthouse, which sits there. It does nothing but be a bright light. And how that works is when you're lost at sea, you just look up, you see this light, and then you choose to move towards the light. And so that's what I wanted to be in my life. I wanted to be the husband. I wanted to be the Christian that would be the lighthouse to people instead of being the tugboat. And so I want to be, and we see that with Ruck guys, even when they come through Rise Up Kings, right? They want to be the tugboat. They're like, no, you need to go to this thing. How about you just show up as the lighthouse and be the type of husband that your wife admires, and then she'll naturally follow the light and come to you. So that was my journey. But my journey was, I was a tugboat, and I was an ineffective Christian for most of my life until I realized that, dude, I gotta follow Jesus closer, so I'm not pulling people away from the faith and being the and really truly living out my testimony. Yeah. So back to another question: what does it mean to be a man of influence to you? So what does it mean? So we talk about being a light being a light to the world. What does being a man of influence mean to you, and how are you living this out right now?
I'd take that, and I'm going to use your example of the lighthouse. Yeah. I just recently shared that analogy with one of the Ruck brothers, and he brought a scenario to me. He said, hey, I'm struggling with my son. He's a preteen. He won't clean his room. His mom jumps on his case about not cleaning his room, and then he yells at her. He's disrespectful to her. He's like, what could I do in this scenario? I go, all right. I said, I got a couple questions for you. At first, what does your garage look like? He says, excuse me? I said, what does your garage look like? Can you park? Is it a 2-car garage? Can you park 2 cars in it? Or is one side of it all filled with trash? And he's like, well, there's a lot of stuff in my garage. And I go, well, if you have a messy garage, your kid's probably going to have a messy room.
That's good.
Because your son's watching you. He's watching your influence. He's watching you more than he's listening to you. We communicate 80% through our actions and our body language and our tone. And he was like, all right. I said, you want him to clean the room? Clean your garage and involve him with it, right? And then I have another question for you. When your son is disrespectful to your wife, how do you respond? Do you yell at him and say, stop talking to your mom that way? Where do you think he learns the way that he speaks to his mother? How do you talk to her when you disagree? So you have to lay down that foundation. You have to express your faith through your influence on how you show up in the family. And in my experience, they'll follow. They don't always follow as quickly maybe as you would like, but you have to give what you want to get. If you want him to respond calmly to his mom, you respond calmly to his mom. You respond calmly to him. Set the example.
Yeah, I love this conversation. That was good. And it reminds me of a time my wife and I went on a date, and we had an incredible date. It's like we got the first base, second base, third base. Yeah. We at the house now. It's like we had a great night. Home base is calling, baby. And then she hits me with this question like, hey, babe, I got a quick question for you. Somebody says something like that. It's probably not going to be a quick answer. She's like, hey, why are we together? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we're married. I love you. You love me. Like, she's like, yeah, but is that it? Is it just the American dream, picket fence, couple kids? Like, I'm like, and the more I talked, the deeper the hole was that I dug for myself. And now I'm frustrated. She's frustrated. She's like, oh my God. And next thing you know, we're in the house, and now I'm like, she's asleep, and I'm up in our home office, and I'm chewing on this question, and I can't quite seem to find an answer. So now it's 3:00 in the morning. I've whiteboarded all this stuff, and I've come up with this whole statement. She wakes up, and I'm like, yes, all right, I got it. And I'm like, hey, babe, look, here's the answer. And I point to the whiteboard. She's like, and walks the other direction. I'm like, are you kidding me? I just spent how many hours on this? And it leads back to this conversation around how to live as a man of influence. And I recognize a huge deficiency in my leadership as a man. I recognize that I was not effective in being able to cast vision for my family that would influence them and influence generations. So it led to me and my wife spending a weekend crafting a vision statement for our family, mission statements, core values that would be a guiding compass, a lighthouse for not only our children, but for my great grandchildren. So our vision as a family, you can ask any one of our children this and they'll tell you, is to glorify God with an inspiring and purpose-filled life. And I created, I created a core value statement of Davis, which I took our last name, and we attached core values to each of those letters. So Davis, we do hard things. We advance. We are victors and not victims. The I am lives inside of us, and we keep things simple. And it's so funny. My 3-year-old the other day, we were getting ready for bed, and she's literally like, Daddy, I don't want to be in the room by myself, because her older sisters were at Bible study. And I said, sweetheart, who are you? She said, I'm a Davis. And I was like, what do Davises do? We do hard things. I said, you ready to go to bed in there by yourself? She was like, I am. And she started crying. She started crying, man. I was holding her and I patted her and I was like, that's right, baby. That's who we are. So I feel like being a man of influence starts with that. What is your direction? Where are you going? Can you preach the gospel to the world and use words only when necessary? Mm-hmm. And then are you living that out in such a way that it draws other people to you where you're attractive and they say, man, I want what you have?
So that's what that Bible verse is all about. You are the light of the world. It is, hey, you are an influencer to the world, right? Starting with your home first. But I believe God wants us to influence. Mm-hmm. I believe that we're influencing wherever we go. And the more we can...
You're already influencing. Whether you realize it or not, you are influencing. You have power, whether you recognize it or not, power to influence to the positive or to the negative. Yep. And so just by the sheer fact that you exist, you are influencing. And so then the question for you, if you're listening to this thing, is can you look at the people in your life and say, follow me? Can you look at your wife and say, follow me?
Follow my diet.
Yeah.
Follow my...
Yeah. Chase after Jesus the way you see me chasing after Jesus. Can you look at your kids and say, love like you see me love? Forgive like you see me forgive. When you fail like I fail. Let me show you how to fail. Can you... Now listen, don't pick up shame. This isn't an invitation for anybody out there to pick up shame, but really for you to take a look at and get curious around. I believe that questions precede clarity. And so then if you could start asking yourself better questions, then you'll start arriving at clarity faster. The clarity will be more clear, it'll be more evident to you. And so if you can look at your wife, if you can look at your kids, your employees, your local community, your church, your pastor, the people in your life, can you look at them and honestly say, do you love Jesus like you see me love Jesus?
So we hear this. So there's a lot of talk around influence, doing the right thing, right? Living out your testimony. Why do we believe people aren't living out their testimony, aren't living the way Jesus has called them to live, right? Because this all sounds nice and probably very difficult for a lot of people. And so this can just go over their head. It's like, all right, just be better, right? That's like the new term. Your kids say that at all? Yeah.
No.
No. It's do better. It's do better. Yeah, we'll be doing something and we'll screw up on something. Just do better. What are you talking about? Just do better. Shut up. And so, what does it look like? Why are people not living as Christ? And I believe there's a lie that permeates the Christian church, which is that we cannot live like Christ lived. It's just not even possible. And it's a total lie. And I believe that lie is preventing people from truly stepping into becoming Christ-like. Because they're like, no, I'm always going to have this thorn in my side. Are you? You know what? There's no way that I could love like Jesus loved. Says who? And so we actually can. My belief is, based on results, what I've seen with people, we can live like Christ. Now, it may be a lifelong journey, but we can get incredibly close. And that's the goal. To me, that's really what heaven on earth is bringing more of God's goodness. And being of more people on earth living like Christ is bringing heaven on earth and experiencing heaven on earth. More love, more joy, more abundance, more peace in the way that we operate. So that's the vision. But where are people stuck? Well, I believe that belief is that belief that we can't. What if you believe, hey, I actually can be like Christ? That's one thing. But the second thing is, I believe what prevents people is owning their past. So, for you guys, what does it mean to own your past? What is it, as I say that, owning your past? How could not owning your past prevent you from living more Christ-like?
Something I heard you say in there is, and this may be a way of answering that too, is this idea of worthiness. that so many Christians don't feel worthy, and so then they lay up when you could be shooting threes from outside the circle. So many Christians lay up. Well, they take a look at their shortcomings and say, I can't measure up, so I'm not going to try. And maybe that junk was put in you when you were young, likely between the ages of 8 and 12. But maybe some coach out there, or maybe it wasn't even any explicit words to you, like you aren't good enough or you aren't worthy. Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was just the feeling that you caught. Maybe it was that you inferred it from the way others were treating you. But this idea of unworthiness, I believe, is the thing that prevents people from stepping off into the fullness of it. Because if we have our worthiness tied to our works, we're getting it backwards. It is not. It's not by works we're saved. It's by faith. But with faith, there will be works. But it's not the works that save us. And so if we get it twisted, though, we can start showing up in this life and we point to the evidence. Well, I messed up here. Therefore, that means that I'm not good enough to share the gospel. I messed up over here, or I'm not good at communicating, or I'm not good at sharing my feeling. So then that means that I'll just turtle up and it's hard for people to connect with me. Well, yeah, you're literally making that thing be true. But it would be the exact opposite should you choose to step out. And when we recognize that it's not by we did nothing for our own salvation except provide the need for it. We did nothing for it.
We also did nothing for our worth, which is really interesting, right? Because salvation's one thing, but then our actual value and our worth was done and nailed to the cross too. So it's and that's a whole long, that's a whole other conversation. But yes, exactly. We did nothing for our worth. We are worthy. And that's actually what bothers me. And this may be controversial, but that's what bothers me around, even Alcohol Anonymous, right? You are an addict. It's ingrained in you that you are an addict. You'll always be an addict. And I think they actually have, you have to repeat that. Yeah. And so it's so the idea that Christians are broken, and that you're broken, and that you'll always be broken because you're a sinner. It's my identity as broken, but hold on, what does Scripture say?
That's right.
It also says you're a saint.
And it says you're a new creation.
That you're the temple of the Holy Spirit.
100%. And so we have a very large sect of Christianity that's ingraining you are broken, you are a sinner, there's something wrong with you. And so if you grow up in a Christian environment like that, you're going to have some massive worthiness issues, and your faith isn't going to help with that. I mean, it should, but there's just so much. There's a cognitive dissonance that happens there. It just doesn't match up. It's no, but I'm broken. I'm broken. I'm a sinner. I'll always be a sinner. But no, Scripture says you are a saint, you are redeemed.
Due an inheritance.
100%.
That you had no part in creating. I think about it with my own kids. I have 3 daughters. My youngest daughter is 10 years old. She has done nothing to add to the profit and loss of our family. She's done nothing to add. She hasn't picked up enough dog poop or cleaned her room enough to offset the cost of her existing on this earth. She's done nothing to add to the, she makes me happy and she has great snuggles. But when we balance things out, she is a line item expense. Mm-hmm. And if I were to die today, she'd be due an inheritance. Not because of anything that she did. She did nothing for it. I did it. My wife and I did it. We made the plans. We called the company. We pay the money. We pay the insurance. We set it all up for her. She did nothing for it. She's due an inheritance because she's mine. She's mine. And I say, the word tells us that we're due an inheritance, and it had nothing to do with us. It's because of to whom we belong. And once that stuff, once you get out of your head about all the performance BS, because that's what it is. It's BS. Obviously, works come alongside faith. When there's faith, there will be works. But it is not the works that save. And so then when you can rest in that and you wrap your head around the idea that my 10-year-old is due an inheritance because of nothing that she did. Like virtually every man listening to this likely has a life insurance policy. It's not like this is some foreign concept. It isn't. You 100% understand the concept that we're talking about here. You just don't like it because you've built all this evidence of why you're bad, wrong, or broken. No. Like what happened with Jesus' sacrifice on the cross is that in Galatians it tells us he made a list. Like all of the indictments against you were nailed to the cross. And it says something like Jesus almost like flaunts it in front of the devil. You can't, like, no, they're no longer yours, they're mine. Our sin, the indictments labeled against us, listed out against us, nailed to the cross, Jesus, his sacrifice washed away our sin, not covered it like the Old Testament. The Old Testament sacrifice would cover the sin, and God's presence was behind the veil in the temple. And once a year, the high priest could go in, and most of the time he died. And they tied a rope around his foot and a bell on his, so when he fell over, they could drag him out of there, behind the veil. And after Jesus, what happened? The veil was torn, and we become the residing place of the Most High. We are now the temple. This isn't me making it up. This is the word. And so then when we can like really come to grips with this fact that it is not our works. It is not our works at all. It's by him, by his sacrifice, that our sin was washed away, and the indictment against us has been nailed to the cross. And now we can step out. We can. So many times, so many Christians don't, but we can step out into the fullness of our worthiness that was bought not by any works of ours, but by Jesus' sacrifice. We can step out into that worthiness and boldly go and proclaim this to others. And when necessary, use words, but by the way in which we live our life.
So I think there's something that's so powerful in the Bible, and it's called the rule of first mention. So to your point, when sin entered the world, the very first response to sin was for Adam and Eve to hide. And they sewed fig leaves together to hide themselves. But yet before that, they were naked and unashamed. So that leads me to believe that the first reason why people are not stepping out into this in a way where we can truly live like Jesus, to your point, is shame. I can't believe that this happened to me. I can't believe that I sinned. I did this, I did that. And now I attach my value to the thing, the work. But that's not who we are, because it's not whose we are. So for me, it's two pieces here. Number one is shame. And shame, I believe, is also a result of condemnation from the enemy. But condemnation doesn't come from God. Conviction does. And conviction is designed to draw us closer to him so we can be intimate with him and walk in a way that will be worthy of what he's called us to do with our lives, and to walk in the love and receive that in such a way that our life can be that light that it's designed to be. So when we walk in condemnation and shame, it prevents us, because now we hide our light under a bushel as opposed to being the lighthouse. But when we can understand that what happened to me, even though it was wrong, happened for me according to Romans 8:28, now I can understand that conviction is drawing me closer to Christ, and I can live a life with no shame, and now that affects what I believe. So I believe the two factors here are shame and belief, and that can either shackle us or set us free. So now, going back to the rule of first mention, when I believe that Jesus died on the cross, rose after the third day, and he forgave me of my sin, I now am set free for all of eternity. I am a child of God. So therefore, I am righteous, not in my own strength, not because of my own works, not because of my intellect or abilities or anointing or skills. No, it's because of what Jesus did for me. Come on. And I'm made righteous, meaning I am in right standing with God because of what Jesus did in his blood and the price that he paid for me to be the man that I am today. So when we can realize that, and if you're thinking through what things have been holding you back and you've not been free, and you're wondering how to get over this sin and put the bottle down and stop finding comfort at the end of that thing, or the drugs or whatever you've been doing to sedate yourself, when you can lay this down and realize that I don't have to show up and perform, all I have to do is be, because of what I believe. And I believe that Jesus saved me. He literally saved my soul to where I don't have to be like Adam and Eve and hide and cover myself. I can live in the open. I can be free because I am a man of God because of Jesus. And when God looks at me, He sees Jesus Christ because of what I believe in my heart and what I've confessed with my mouth. So for me, I believe that that is the key to living a life to truly be free.
Boom. Some fire right there.
It's good.
Yeah,
It's good.
I want to take the field right now. If I want to, but man, that's good. The word that jumped out to me on that was the condemnation, and I believe we are partially to blame. And when I say we, the church, because we hold our pastors to a level that is not obtainable for man. Right? Like if you look at the Bible is just full of incredible people that God has used that were broken. But our pastors, if they show up vulnerable and share some of their past testimony, they're out. They'll lose their job, the house their family lives in, they're moving on, right? The congregation will throw them right out if they share some of the things that they're struggling with. Well, that's their influence. If your pastor is the lead of your church and he has the most influence on where that church body is moving, and he's scared to be vulnerable and share what he's struggling with, that influence just permeates every man in the congregation. Yeah. Now they're scared, and they may not even know where they're getting it from, but it's not part of their culture. It's not part of their culture to be vulnerable and share the thing they're struggling with. Mm-hmm. Now they're struggling with that thing on their own, and now they're fighting the enemy, they're fighting the addiction, they're fighting the things on their own, and they don't have their brothers beside them, not even knowing that the brother that lives 2 houses down in the stucco box next to him has the same problem or the same testimony. We're stronger together. We're built for community, locked arm in arm, to go to war together, to hunt together, to do life together, to pray together.
Well, why do you think, so that's stemming from the pastors, but why do you, because you've done a great job trying to integrate more vulnerability, more honesty, more openness at your church.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Leading into that. And there's still some gaps there, right?
Yeah.
Like significant gaps. And so the traditional 4-wall church, man, has giant gaps in basically there's a lack of vulnerability and a lack of men that are like rowing together, right, as high performers for the mission of glorifying the kingdom. Like there's a gap of that. There's casual meetups, they're sharing about sports, maybe read a couple verses, but there's not this deep discipleship and vulnerability, and then also the results that stem from a high performing group. Why do you think that is? And it drives me crazy. And that's one of the reasons we launched Ruck. I just was missing that. I just didn't have a group like this to go run with. And so, yeah, from your perspective.
So I was late to the game coming in as a Christian. So when I met my wife and we got in a relationship and I saw the fire of the Lord in her, I mean, she's been one of the most influential people in my life. I mean, because I saw the fire for the Lord in her. She was in ministry doing the things. And I'm like, all right, I want that. I want what she has. So I went back and I looked and I said, all right, anything I've ever been good at, I had a plan for. Super intentional, strategic mind. I'm sure my brother here, both strategic minded. And I said, all right, well, what are all the elements that are going to lead to my sanctification? And the first ones that jumped out to me were the things like, Bible studies, memorizing verses, praying, worship. Those are all good things. And I think that most churches do those really well. But they don't do church well. And church is a group of people coming together and expressing their faith together, not just on Sunday, but in life. And that was my focus. Like me being in relationship with this man helps my sanctification, but I have to be intentional about it. It's just like practicing for a sport. Like I got really good at jiu-jitsu. I didn't get good at it on my own in my garage, watching videos and talking about how great. I have to show up and actually do the jiu-jitsu on another guy, and he provides feedback. Normally that's a lot of sweat and resisting and grunting and all those things, but that feedback is what makes me better at the sport. It's the same with your faith. You have to be intentional about it. It's not going to just happen for you, and the churches, in my experience, aren't doing it for you either. Mm-hmm. You're going to get me on my soapbox right here, but if you take your men's retreat, I asked a church recently, I was like, hey, what do you guys do for discipleship here? Oh, we do a yearly men's retreat. Well, you know how good I'd be at jiu-jitsu if I showed up to jiu-jitsu practice once a year? Not very good, right? You can't do discipleship one time a year, a men's retreat. And then get me started on that. I was like, hey, let me see what your men's retreat looks like. This is your curriculum. Let me see your women's retreat. Oh, it's the same curriculum. Yeah. I can't even tell the difference if I take the headings off. Worship, pray, speaker. Yeah, it's all the same. Like we're built different. We're built to be in community and to figure things out. And we do that here. We do a great job of running an activity. You play checkers. We don't play checkers here. We all know that. But you play checkers, and we watch you play checkers, and you say you're a man of God, and you show up in these ways. But then we watch you play checkers, and you're like ultra competitive, and you get mad, and you storm off. That's not Christ-like. Well, you need that in your daily life.
Mm-hmm. Some exposure.
Right? Yeah.
We need exposure. Yeah. We need to have some. Yep.
If we're in the restaurant and I don't tip the waitress, and Mondo sees that, and he loves me enough to be like, "Hey, John, what's going on with that? Why don't you tip?" "Oh, I don't tip. I'm Mr. Pink. I don't tip." Right? There's a problem there. Right? And you're going to only see that by doing life with each other.
Man, I think that's really powerful. And a lot of times, I've heard this quite a few times from different men. I love that you shared that. Hey, man, I got this. I'm good. And they just, like, how many times have you heard that where guys just kind of pull back? I'm a grown man.
Yeah.
I got this, bro. Like, I don't need no accountability in my life. Oh, really? Oh, is that right? Okay, so you're telling me that Jesus, 100% God, yet 100% man, had accountability in his life, but yet you don't need it? Help me understand that. Because when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane in his most vulnerable moment, when he was literally sweating great drops of blood because the capillaries burst in his brain because he was under so much stress, that he's literally got blood fusing with the sweat dripping down his face. Guess what? There were 3 that were there with him, right? That inner circle. He had 3 men that were close enough to him to be there. Now, they did fall asleep, but they were there. They were in proximity. So how much more should we have that? And one of the things, when you think about the Western model of the church, we do a once a week pop-up, come to church, we have our coffee, it's nice and cozy. We listen to an amazing sermon, and then we leave after an hour and 15 minutes. And then we go about our lives and maybe show up for a once a week Bible study. But man, the Eastern model is so much different because they meet in these smaller groups and it's experiential.
Oh yeah.
And it's just a different experience.
And even home churches too.
Churches.
There was a large, one of the largest mega churches. The youngest guy running the largest mega church was, I forgot what city it was. It was in Texas. And he went and saw this other model in Asia and different other areas where it's massive multiplication. So there was just massive, like millions of people coming to Christ. Mm-hmm. And he went back and he's like, man, I got this mega church, but it's not like multiplying. It's just we're running, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12,000 people, but it's not, there's no multiplication, it's addition.
Yep.
He's like, I want to go multiply. And so what he did was he's like, hey, and he saw this other model in all these other countries, it's home churches. So they go launch a home church, and then there's 8 to 15 people. They disciple for a year, and then all those people start home churches. And then all those people start home churches. And then all those people start home churches. And now you get millions of people coming to Christ on a regular basis. And so he saw that model. He's like, hey, it's a level of discipleship. It's like unlike anything here in the U.S. And so he went back to the church. He said, hey, we're going to do this thing. So he went. He prepped it. It took a year prepping this whole thing to launch it. Went to the church, launched it, and told the church, all the church members, hey, we're going to go. Now we got more work to do. I need you to go show up at your home, gather people together. Gave them the mission, and then I believe it was within a couple year period, the entire church collapsed, fully went under. They were not willing to go live out their faith in that way. They were not willing to go do the hard work and to go start groups, launch groups, run groups, disciple other people. They just wanted to show up at church, listen to a great message, and then go home. That's how most Christians operate. And this guy was like, he basically gave up the church, and now he wrote a book on multiplication and is going in other countries, and he is just making a massive impact by he created a process for home church multiplication. And so that's where I've battled with traditional church, just showing up on Sunday, hearing a good message, taking off. It kind of bothers me. It really does bother me. I believe in the traditional church. I feel like there's some brokenness there. It's a little bit of I feel like a broken model that needs to get fixed. I want to see more multiplication happen. It even got me thinking about launching a little home church. Still maybe going to church. I believe in that Christians should belong to a church. Really believe that. And my greatest growth as a Christian was in a Bible study that I was doing life with 12 other men. That was my greatest growth. It wasn't a Sunday sermon that I heard. I've never had tremendous growth. It was It was pulling apart the word and refining each other in this small group once a week, but then connecting outside the small group during the week, and then doing that for a couple years. Man, my faith flourished in that moment. So anyway, that's my thought on this. I'm passionate and I'm still working out the details, but I want to see the church model start to transform in some way. I just don't love the thousands of people showing up on Sunday, hearing a message for 45 minutes and then doing some worship and then taking off. There's so much, like, we're missing out on prayer. We're missing out on deliverance. We're missing out on breakthrough work. We're missing out on all these things because it's become so formalized and so corporate prayer. It's just become so corporate that there's not that same. And some churches do discipleship well with small groups. I'd say most of them really struggle with that.
Until the belief around vulnerability changes, that's going to continue to be the result, in my opinion. Like, most people are scared of vulnerability because vulnerability is the exposing of one's weakness. Like, if we have a castle and I tell the enemy where the vulnerability is in my castle could be over and the enemy could win. So then we don't tell the enemy, we tell our allies. But the vulnerability piece becomes so scary for most Christians, for most people in general, that they shy away from vulnerability. And what happens is it then basically negates intimacy. Intimacy only happens, so intimacy is into me, you see, being fully known. And so intimacy only happens through vulnerability. Vulnerability denotes an exposing of one's weakness. I mean, again, not a foreign concept. This happens in your marriage. In order for you and your spouse to be intimate, you must expose that which is private. Like physically. Emotionally, in order to be intimate, you must expose that which is private. It's the same concept. We have to expose that which is private. And until we get our heads wrapped around, until like the local church, like you're talking about, and until we get over this belief that if I share the thing where I'm weak, I'll be hurt. Until we get over that, and until we stop hurting people, that when they share where they're weak, we stop tightening the thumb screw. So I think this is like a tango here that has to happen. We have to recognize, talk about soapboxes here, but Jesus never had issue with the tax collector or the prostitute. Never had. Who do you have issue with?
Yeah,
Pharisees.
Religious.
Pharisees.
Get behind me, Satan.
Yep.
You brood of vipers. Like, he talks smack to all the religious cats.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so when we can, and I believe, like, in that scenario, like, everybody wants to say, I would never be that guy. Yeah, you would. Yeah, it'd be you. It'd be me too. Man, I want to be the guy, though. Like, my intent is to be the guy when someone shares something that I don't use it to tighten the thumb screw and put and call them out. I want to call them up. Prepositions matter. And call them up. No, man, that's not who you said. Like, look, how is it I can come alongside you? Let's do this together. Like, when we get to a point as a capital C church in the West here, when we get to a point where people feel safe to be vulnerable with us because they have a lived experience of not having their vulnerability exploited, then as a collective capital C church in the West, then what we'll see is intimacy increase.
It's a mess. I mean, like John was talking about with pastors,
Yeah.
You can't be vulnerable. What happens when a pastor is vulnerable on stage, sharing that he's struggling with porn?
They're done.
He's done.
It's over.
So it's like it's the example for the church.
Exactly.
And as goes the leader, so goes the followers.
Man, brutal. It's a catch-22 with this. It's a really tricky. Speaking of vulnerability and exposing, what's something that you're dealing with? What's something that's you don't normally
great.
expose that you would love to expose with us?
I love that you've asked me that question on camera. That's fantastic. There has been. It's funny you say that and ask that question. There has been something I know I've been needing to do, and I'm not even clear yet on why I haven't been doing it. I'm asking myself the question. I know that God has called me to do more of this. and I don't know what it looks like. And I'm scared. I've met with the people and talked about the things, but I don't have real clarity on what it looks like. And I am feeling myself dragging my feet. Like I know me well enough. I can tell, like, I'm dragging my feet and doing just enough work in the space to say that I'm looking, but I'm not seeking. And it, man, that's not who I am. Mm-hmm. That's not who I am. And so, yeah, thanks for that, Skylar. Appreciate it. No, I mean that both sarcastically 100%. And actually.
there may be some fear there, right, underneath the surface. What I've found most of the time in action, many times, right, there's some root of fear. And the thing with fear is you don't have to, what I've realized with fear, you don't have to feel fear to operate in fear.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So you don't actually have to have the feeling of fear to be stopped by fear. It could be this underlying thing that you're completely unaware of. As an example, most Christians are afraid to share their faith. Afraid. There's a fear there. But they don't actually feel fear because they just go through their normal life and they don't even think about it. They put it in the back. So there's a fear that's now controlling them. Mm-hmm. There's a fear that's now, and I'm not saying it's fear for you, but fear is an interesting deal. So thank you for sharing that and getting real, man.
100%.
Actually, while we're here, what's something, I'll go. I ate 3 cookies yesterday. So,
oh my gosh. Lay up. That was cheesy.
I'm kidding. I was totally kidding around on that one.
Cheesy.
I'll give you my real one after you guys go. Let's do this real quick.
We're going to see how deep this goes.
What's something that's under that maybe you haven't shared? It doesn't have to be anything giant, but what's something that you don't normally share? That's a struggle.
Yeah, I'll go first.
A struggle that you have or have recently had.
Yeah, and I'm going to share something. The funny thing about vulnerability is often my experience with vulnerability is you believe that if you show the weakness, that it's going to be used against you. Like Jeremy's example of the castle. If you show where the castle's defense is, but this is actually my experience. Not always, but most of the time. If I were on like a warrant service team where we're outside of the house and we're getting ready to make entry into the house through the front door, and we got the dog there, we got the guys with the shields and the stuff, and all of a sudden, right before we're getting ready to go in, the guy goes, "Hey man, you guys can come through the front door. There's no lock on it." We wouldn't go through that door. Right? Why is he telling us that? Does he want us? Does he want us to go through that front door? Yeah. There's no way we'd cut a hole in the roof first, right? Throw the dog through the attic and let him go that way, right? We'd go that route. In my experience, vulnerability is the same thing. And we say it here, the man with nothing to hide is the most powerful man in the room. And I've experienced that. You know, Marines are normally really, really good at it because they're ruthless to each other. And you learn very quickly, the successful Marines, men of influence in the Marine Corps, they learn this thing that is if you have something that you're nervous about, if you just jump right out and you're like, "Hey guys, nice to meet you. By the way, I'm missing a finger," right? Or whatever the thing is.
Just so happens.
Yeah, it just happened, right? Like right out of the gate. Set that up. The guys, yeah. As soon as the guys realize the thing, like, oh, he's missing a finger, or, you know, this is a funny story. I had a buddy I worked with. He had like an extra set of nipples. And it was like really weird, right? And when you're living with dudes, like when you're living in those close quarters, everyone's going to realize it. It's like, I meet this dude. He's like, "Hey, check this out. I got an extra set of nipples and I'll fight over it." And we're like, "Okay, that's laid out." Like no one mentioned it for like 6 months. Don't fight this. Yeah. You're like, all right.
That's so good.
Yeah. It's when you just bring it out, it's like, oh my God, it can't be used against you. Oh my God. It just can't be used against you.
So you like remove the power from it.
You take the power right out of it.
Yeah. By bringing it into the light.
By bringing it into the light, it has no power over you. So good. You're like, all right, that's off limits.
Yeah.
There you go. So, you know, the thing, man, I've shared so much in Ruck, but the most recent thing that comes to my mind is I'm in the realization, this is the first time I've ever lived somewhere where I couldn't be involved in a sport. Like, because of where we've moved to, sports at this moment just aren't accessible to me. And what I'm realizing is my identity is tied up in being an athlete, not in a lifelong fitness person or an exerciser. And there's a difference there. And this is what's happening in it is I used to be so motivated to eat the right things and do the workouts the right way and do all of those things because my health depended on it, because if I was on the field, someone was going to twist, or a mat, someone's going to punch on me, or they're going to twist me up. So I wanted to be at my highest athletic performance. So that motivated me to do all the things in and around my fitness to be an athlete. Well, now that that's been removed, I find it very difficult to stay on top of my diet, to work out when I want to. And I'm struggling. And what I'm realizing is, what I know is that your identity has so much more influence over what you do than your willpower, because your willpower is not infinite. Your willpower runs out, just like your cardio runs out. As the day goes on, your willpower breaks down, your discipline breaks down, and in the evenings, you're more likely to make bad choices. And I am like really struggling. Like, I'm having to dig in and use many of the things that we teach here to be like, no, like, I will exercise. I will not eat that. Like, I'm struggling with those things, but I don't have the sport in the background to keep me honest with myself, to keep me in alignment with who I say I am. And I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm the guy who's missed a workout, the amount of workouts I'm missing. And I don't like what's happening to this body as I'm growing older and, I'm transitioning in this life. And I am not showing up with the physical influence of the man I say I have been through my life.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. It's great. So for me, as I've had time to think through this, the thing that's coming up for me in this season that I've been actively praying through, working through, struggling with, and trying to really get clear on is my identity as it pertains to what I believe God has gifted me to do at the highest level. And what I mean by that is specifically when it comes to communication. So this is something you'll probably find to be funny. I went to a magnet high school, Woodside High School in Newport News, Virginia, and I studied communications. My goal was to go to college and major in communications. There were 4 classes that we needed to get a minimum GPA of 3.5 in collectively, cumulative, to be accepted into the major. And my GPA came in at like a 3.49. And I had one class where I got a B minus and I needed a B. And I met with the dean. I was like, hey, can I do extra credit? Like, we're talking about point, like 0.1 here. Like, really? And he looked me square in the face. He was like, no. And I switched majors. And man, there was something about that moment leading up even into now that I'm just starting to connect the dots on. It's like, hey, do you really have value in what you bring to the table? Like, I've been feeling this thing, like I've been feeling like God's been like, hey, I need you to write. I need you to write, and I need you to put it onto a platform where others can access what you've written. And there's this, every time that I'm getting ready to move forward with this, there's this hesitation. And I'm like, dude, why am I hesitating? Like, why am I not just full throttle? Like, if you give me something like a sport, or you line me up toe to toe with another dude to box, I don't care if he's 6'8". I don't care if he's 5% body fat. He's 270 pounds. Like, let's go. Like, if I take an L, I take an L. I don't care. There's areas where there's no confusion. There's no hesitation. But it's like in this space, I've noticed that I'll hesitate and then I'll procrastinate. And I'm like, I'll look up and a year's gone by. And then I'm having this conversation with my wife and she's like, dude, like, what is it? Like, do you realize that that's disobedience? You're being disobedient when God is telling you to do something. And man, it just smacked me clean in the face. And I'm like, ah. So right now, that is a vulnerability for me. Mm-hmm. And on paper and on the surface, and if you encounter me, you'll probably think, oh man, yeah, you're great at that. And for me, I'm like, okay, I do realize that God has gifted me in some ways, and I'm all in when it comes to other people. Like I'll literally stay up for 48 hours for Jeremy, for Skylar, for John, for my wife, but when it comes to what God is saying for me to do, like for me, I've noticed this pattern, and I'm at a place right now where I'm like, I'm breaking it. I'm committed to it because I want to be a man of obedience. That's not who I am. And I know that my identity is not attached to a moment or a temporary loss or failure. It's in who God says that I am, and my obedience is what he's after. So obedience is better than sacrifice, and I'm committed to being an obedient man in that regard.
It's great. Yeah, I wish you had some more time. We could coach through that there. There's some stuff underneath there that I think just some beliefs Because you can grind through things, right, and push through, which we're all great at. And sometimes there's a flip of a switch of a belief, right, that can shift. That's been preventing us from taking action on something also. So as you're processing through that, there's a couple things there that could be powerful. And I love it, man. I love you just wanting to be obedient, because you did that even with your football career, right? Practicing obedience and wanting to like do it in a way, do it so you can glorify God, right? For me, as we close out the podcast, this is a longer podcast. We just wanted to test out the desk. I'm having fun sitting here, so I'm just keeping it going. So I got a couple things I've been.
Yes, we journal.
Great.
Yes.
I want to make sure we're all not make sure, but I'm a journaler, so that's where I process through. When I feel stuck somewhere, I'll go journal. So what's fun is going through my previous journals and seeing where I've been stuck over the years. And so right now, a recent journal a couple days ago. Actually, there's multiple ones that I could discuss, but this one was really I'm feeling like I've hit a plateau. I've created a level of success, created a level of relationships, I've hit this plateau of who I believe I am, and so my identity is matching where I'm at. So I've been on cruise control for like the last probably 6 months, where I'm not like aggressively making gains in any area. Like business stuff's easy for me. Like that's easy. I make gains naturally there. But these other areas in my faith, with my family, in my fitness, and even in some aspects of business, I've kind of plateaued. I've hit this plateau. And so it's been this grind to even just eat healthy, eat super healthy. It's been a grind to push in workouts. Like I'm having to like push hard. Just luckily I've built this foundation, which is what we do at Ruck, where I have this, I think of like a trapeze net, right? A trapeze net, they have that safety net. So I have a safety net built, meaning I have the habits of working out almost every day, eating good. I have all these things built, so I'm still moving forward. But I'm not reinventing myself. And so I'm in this, like, I believe it's the start of a cocoon process where I'm moving this cocoon phase. And so I want to keep pushing, but then I'm asking God, like, God, is this a time for reflection and just a time with you, and not aggressively pushing towards a bunch of new goals, but really sitting here and just being in it and being in the discomfort of not making massive progress in certain areas, and then allowing the cocooning process to happen and to reinvent. So that was a recent, couple days ago, journal entry, because I've just been bothered because I don't have this big vision of this new version of myself. So like you talked about, John, I don't have this thing that's pulling me towards it yet. And I know it'll come. I just don't know. Am I in a season of just grind through it, or am I in a season of cocoon it out and reflect and allow this reinvention? Because my goal is I want to be a new version of myself every year, 2 years. And I feel like I've been this similar version for about 2 years now. And I feel this tension, this like underlying tension of ready to get to the next level, but there's not a massive pull towards it. I'm just kind of like I'm in maintenance mode. I don't like operating in maintenance mode. I absolutely do not. And so I've been in maintenance mode for a little while. And so I'm cruising. That stuff's rocking, stuff's still moving, everything's rolling, but I'm in this maintenance mode. But I'm ready for a breakthrough. I want some major breakthrough to happen. And sometimes there's a breakdown that precedes breakthrough. And so I'm open for a breakdown. I kind of actually enjoy breakdowns because I know there's something beautiful always on the other side. I don't want to create a breakdown. No, I don't want to create a breakdown, but I'm open for this next breakdown where I can push through and like accelerate next level growth and impact and influence and just expanding the kingdom through who I am, what I do. And, but yeah, that's what's underneath the surface and I'm working through behind the scenes and praying on. So appreciate you guys. Yeah. Thanks for being vulnerable. I feel like we should, man, I don't know. I enjoy vulnerability. I enjoy real conversations almost more than anything else. It lights me up. So I'm grateful I can be around a group of guys that are willing to be real and dig deep. All right, guys. Well, that's the podcast. End of the podcast. So I want to just throw this out there. Continue to be a light. Continue to allow the word and your relationships to sanctify you, to refine you, so you can keep being a light that God wants to wants to give a platform to impact more people. We need more men of God that are on their journey of living Christ-like to go have people follow them as they follow Christ. Love you guys. Have a great week.